Hello, welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is Brian here with another how-to video on getting a very old game up and running on a modern system. And today's game is going to be one of my very favorite games. This is Descent, made by Parallax Software in 1995, and with its sequel, which we won't have to do a video on because the process will be exactly the same. The second game, Descent 2, released in '96. After that game was released, the studio changed their name from Parallax Software to Volition. You might know them for games like Red Faction series. I don't believe their studio's around anymore. I think they got dissolved into something else, or they're bought out by THQ Nordic or something. I don't know. When THQ got bought up. So I have no idea what the fate of that company is now, but this is one of their earliest games. And this is a 6 Degrees of Freedom axis kind of shooter where you can aim in 6 different directions or degrees or whatever. It's kind of like a shooter, but you're flying a spaceship, shooting and navigating, kind of a labyrinth of mazes and outer world spaceship stuff. So pretty cool game. You're fighting robots and collecting keys and saving hostages and whatnot. So it's kind of similar to Doom without all the crazy violence, but there is a modern game version of this. I'm not sure a lot of people know about this, but it's also on Steam, and it is called, I think it's called Overload. This is made by a lot of the same developers as Descent. So if you've never played any of these games and you want just a modern take on Descent, check out Overload on Steam. I'm trying to find it here in my Steam library. I've got too many games. Curiosity. I know it's in here somewhere. Could just search for it, but I'm too lazy. Oh, maybe I'll just search for it because I'm lazy. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Overload. Yeah, so this is a modern take on Descent, basically. This is a really great game. If you haven't played it, I definitely recommend checking it out. If you're into stuff like Descent, it's a great game. And like I said, made by a lot of the people that worked on Descent back in the day. Very similar. It's a modern take on, modern spiritual successor to Descent. So with that out of the way, let's go back to Descent. So this mod's going to first focus on the first game, but this will also work for the second game. So the website, I'll have this linked in the description box below. So you can go check it out, download it. But I'll give you a how-to on how to install it. First thing you want to do is make sure you go Download tab. Select this one down here at the bottom, Windows 10. Once you have that downloaded, check your downloads folder. You'll have a zip file, extract that to a folder. And you'll have both of these in here for the first and second game. So D1X is for the first game, and D2X is for the second game. And there's just a bunch of files in here. And so we're going to use this one. So you'll want to make sure you're inside this folder. Don't copy the folder itself, copy the contents within it. And let's go back to Steam. Make sure you buy the game on Steam. Let's see. Let's go back. Yeah, store. So go to the search box. If you don't have the game, just type in DESCENT. You will find actually all 3 of them on here. There's Descent 1, 2, and 3. This mod doesn't work with a third one, so you have to find other solutions for that one, and maybe I'll do a video on that later. So the first game, $10. Second game, $10. Once you buy those, or if you've already have them, so normally this game runs through DOSBox on Steam and can be very hit and miss on modern systems, whether or not you get it working. My system generally doesn't have the best of luck running DOSBox stuff, but what this mod does is it's basically a modern source port of the Descent engine with modern sensibilities like adding OpenGL support and various other modern stuff, and support for very high resolutions, far above what the original game offered. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so once we got that, we're going to right-click. Once we've installed it, I'm going to browse local files. So your folder structure will look just like this once you first install it. So where we're going to be putting these games is we're going to put them in the Descent folder. Now this is the same for the second game as well. So you'll open that folder, and you can see I've already put most of this in here. So when you open this, you shouldn't see this many files. It'll just be like maybe 5 or 6 files. So that's perfectly normal. Let's see. Make my windows a little bit smaller. There we go. So we're going to take the mod. We're going to take all the contents out of that D1X rebirth file folder. We're going to cut it. Go back into our Descent folder within Descent. So again, I'm going to state this. Inside the Descent folder, there'll be another folder called Descent. Open that one. And you're going to want to cut and paste these in there. Replace if it asks. It should look like that. And at this point, the mod is essentially done and ready to go. So I'm going to show a little bit of gameplay, and then I'm going to come back to the desktop and show you how to make your Steam, your Steam game listing look a little bit more modern, and how you can have this set up to where you can make it say Descent 2 Remastered or whatever you want to do. So if you want to stick around for that, go right ahead. But at this point in the video, the mod is essentially done and you are ready to play. So all you need to do to play the game is just create a shortcut of this exe right here to your desktop, and you're set to go and the game will run. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open this, and it'll run a modern version of the game with modern sensibilities that'll work on modern systems. So you just want to hit that and hit run away anyway. Let the game run. And here we are at the main menu. So you can go in the options menu once you first start, go to graphics, hit screen resolution, and you can bump it all the way up to whatever your monitor supports. You can change HUD options. You can change the texture filtering. You can do something like anisotropic filtering. Always had trouble saying that. And some of these are all newer kind of settings as well. So you can enable that. Now for controls, I recommend using mouse. Turn that on. I go to keyboard. Now what I like to do, let's see if I remember how I set this up. So the ones we want, oh yeah, here we go. So accelerate and reverse, you want to set those to W and S. Then you want to make sure that you have slide left and slide right set to A and D. So make it a lot simpler. And then banking left and right is basically rotating the ship like a barrel, essentially, in a circle. So this will help you right the ship if you're upside down or what. So stuff like that. And then you can set these for cycling your primary weapons. You'll want to set this to something close to your WASD keys, basically. So I set this to maybe Z and cycle second to X. That usually works. And that should be all you need to really get it working. Turn music down. There we go. Now I can hear myself think. Gonna run a new game. Blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Just get me to the game. There we go. So normally your pitching up and down with the mouse will be inverted, so you can change that as well. Which I actually might change that because that is kind of annoying. Let's see how I change that. Yeah, I think it's right here. Pitch up and down. So I think this will be yes. So that should fix it. So down is down and up is up. Yeah, there we go. So that's a little bit less confusing. So if you're having trouble with that, just go into options, go to controls, customize mouse, and then set this to yes. Pitch up and down. That'll fix your inversion basically. If you're having trouble with the mouse pitching up and down. So yeah, Q and E kind of basically just rotate. You can also set, I can't remember if it's in this game, but I know in the second game, shift is kind of like boost or whatever, so which I can't remember was a part of this one. Might have just been the second game as boosting. I think that's what it is. Yeah, so pretty cool game. So it's basically the same setup for the second game as well. And that's a modern way to play the game. So now if you want to make it look a little bit more presentable for your Steam account. So normally if you try to run it from here, this will just launch the regular version of the game, so you will actually have to run this from a shortcut on your desktop if you want to run it. But if you want to run through Steam, it's a really easy way to do that. So you're going to go down here, add a game, add a non-Steam game. It usually won't show up in the list of stuff, so you'll have to browse for it manually. So just navigate to where you have the game installed. Let's see. Steam library, Steam apps, common. If I find it, first descent, go in here. Then you're going to navigate to that modded mod or whatever you want to call it, and add that. Then add selected programs. And for me, it usually shows up the bottom of the list. Here we go, and then I'm going to sort it into the Ds. Then it'll show up somewhere in here. Usually doesn't show up next to where I want it to. Ah, here it is. Okay. So it'll show up probably at the top or wherever. Might be different for you. We're going to go to Properties. And then we're going to rename the shortcut. Descent Remastered. That's what I usually like to set it to so I can tell it apart. But you can name it whatever you want. There we go. So after it updates, it'll actually change its location. So now maybe you want to create a couple of images for it. So here you can right click up here, set a custom background and a logo. So there's actually ways to change the logo. So if you want to stick around for this part of the video, be my guest. Not, give it a like and think about subscribing. It really helps out the channel. This will be a second part of the tutorial. So, close this out. And I usually just grab a picture off of Google Images, pretty easy. So for this one, I'm going to grab the original box art. Now this will be for, so normally on your home screen, you'll have little tiles like this. So I just play the game and it shows up like that. But we want to make sure it shows up for Descent Remastered. So we need to go ahead and play the game first for it to show up in that list. Run it through Steam for the first time. Then quit it. Then go back to home. Now here it shows up blank, so you can actually make this an image like this. So that's what we're going to be changing first. So I'm going to grab this image. We're going to save image as. I'm going to save it as Descent cover. I'm going to grab that. And then usually finding a banner picture is a little bit harder because of the shape of the picture. It's just a little bit different. If you don't find one that actually, fits, let's say, Descent. So if you don't have one that fits like this wide angle, I don't know what resolution that would be. It's pretty wide. It'll end up just actually zooming in a lot. So it's really hard to find a picture that fits that and looks nice. So I'm just going to find something that looks, half decent. I may even just use the original cover art as well. But generally it's usually hard to find stuff, especially for older games that are this ancient. I think this one right here might work. It's a bit wide. Make an image of that, copy, and I'm going to save it. Okay, there we go. Since we got our images that we want from Google, go ahead and close this. Now, the program I like to use to modify pictures is Photoshop, but I use a really old version of Photoshop. It's not been updated. I have no idea how old it is. Probably pretty damn old. I think it's version 11 or whatever, but it's what I know how to use, and it works for what I want. So that's what I use. If you want to use whatever editing program you can. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to open, and we're going to do the cover first. So I'm going to select my cover photo. Now we're working with an image that's pretty small, which is fine. Small images like this work great for these cover photos, for the cover box art. So I'm going to, let's see, where's my magnifying glass? Oh, not that one. There it is. Okay. This is why I use an old version, so because I wouldn't know anything to do with one that's more modern. So I'm going to go use my text image now that I'm zoomed in a bit. Going to make a little box, kind of remove it, and I'm just going to type in remastered. If I can spell. So it's going to be a big image right now, but that's fine. I'm just going to highlight it and then change the pixel size. Change that to, I think I changed, let's bolt to 9. That way I can see it. And we're going to scale it back up until I get it to mostly match. And I think that looks good. Gonna center it like so. Highlight it, right click. Over here on layer properties, we're gonna do blending options. So this is a quick and dirty way to make your letters look a little bit better. Can add a drop shadow. I can make the image itself shadowed if I want. I might not even do that. Give it an outer glow, an inner glow. Make it really pop out. Give it an bevel and emboss. Contour it a little bit. Give it some texture. Usually I find like turning all these in usually makes it look pretty good there. And now it's kind of blended in. You can still really, it shows up in the title card basically or whatever. So pretty much all I have to do there. And then once I've done that, I'm pretty much done. This is pretty much done. So what I'll do is I'll just go here to background, right click, hit flatten image. And now the image is done. We're going to file and I'm going to save it as. I'm going to make sure I save it over the original and save as a PNG. I think that'll work. There, that image is done. So now if I want to change that in Steam, I'm going to go back to home. I'm going to go over here, right click, and now we're going to go to manage, set custom artwork. And I'm going to browse to where I saved those. I think I saved them in here and save pictures. Here it is. There we go. And an open. So now it will show up. I may have to actually adjust the size of this for it to show up. So there is a way to do that, but generally you just have to play around with Photoshop a bit. I'll probably fix it later, but for the interest of time in this video, to not make it super long, we're going to move on. So that's basically a quick way to change your stuff so it looks a little bit nicer in Steam. Maybe you're that kind of person that cares about that. That's how you do it. Okay, so now we're going to change the banner image. So here, I'm going to go File, Open, use the front. And then we're going to basically just do the same thing here. Change it to remastered. Now I'm just going to scale it up until it matches basically the top letters. And you can also actually click in this box up here and enter whatever number you want if you're not finding that any of these listed. They might have changed that in newer versions, but that's just how I do it, using an old version. Gets the job done. So we're going to do that. Layer, change, blending. Turn on these. And the way I have this color set comes out looking pretty similar. Now that's a little bit more red than I'd like. Here we go. Color overlay. I'm going to change that back to more of an orange. There we go. Now it's a little bit blended better. We're going to flatten the image and then save it. And eventually I'll go back and fix that other one, but for right now, I think that'll work. And we're going to go right click, set custom background. Then we're going to change it. Now you can also set a logo here as well, and that's basically just a PNG image, which you can make those in Photoshop as well. It's actually quite simple. But since I already have it listed here, I don't have to do it. I've done it with other stuff, but basically, yeah, that's how you can make Descent look a little bit nicer, more presentable. If you just want to have it all in one spot in your Steam library, that's how you do it. So that pretty much concludes it. So you can use the mod with Descent 2 as well. It's basically the same setup, putting the same folders in the same place. So hopefully you've enjoyed this episode of, I don't even know what to call this, maybe retro renew or something. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this how-to and enjoy playing Descent 1 and 2 on a modern computer. Thanks again for watching, and remember to like and subscribe for more content in the future.